This is the thing that we're dealing with as a society. Some things are very obvious to some of us, okay? So I'm going to differentiate between the types of human avatars that are here on the planet right now and the types of programs that we run, because really that's what distinguishes us and differentiates us. Everyone says, we're all created equal. We're all created in the image of God. Well, first of all, the image created in the image of God is light passed through. It's a holographic. We are in the image of our Creator, meaning we are a holographic projection of our Creator. That's number one. But there are so many layers to us. There's our physical body, there's our etheric body, our energy body, our photonic energy signatures. There's so much, there are many differences in the different permutations of the way that we can present ourselves. So I say all this to say that when some of us, I'm going to call us the wanderers, okay, from the Law of One. When the wanderers are looking at, I'm going to call them organic portals, or just basic, like human 101, okay? When the wanderers are interacting with the human 101, it can be very frustrating because the wanderers have access to information and vibrations and resonances that allow us to download expanded ideas. And we get frustrated because where these expanded ideas are very, very perfectly logical to us and make perfect sense and are obvious, like glaringly obvious to us, to someone else without those abilities, it seems like, it just seems like crazy talk, like total horseshit. And I understand that. and this is why. It's because so the way that it works is the human all of we are bioelectrical, our bodies are bioelectrical, like suits, for a lack of a better way to explain it. And the way that we learn and operate is the light in our body, the light in our DNA, kind of shines out, and it goes out and it gets information from the morphogenetic or the morphic fields around us. We have our own personal morphogenetic field, and then it goes out, the light contained therein, goes out and pulls information from expanded, I'm going to call them morphic fields for short, from expanded fields. And these fields can go out, I'm going to use measurements like feet and inches, but it really isn't that way. But just so that this comes across a little easier to understand, I'm going to use it as a metaphor. So the human 101's fields, morphic fields, are very cute. They're very small. They're very short. So where the human 101 field would reach out, say 12 inches, 1 foot, or 2 feet, or 3 feet. That's as far as they can go out and get information and pull back into their human avatar for processing. So if the information isn't within their very limited morphic field range of how far their feelers can go out and grab information, then they cannot understand the concept. Whereas the wanderers, our personal fields are enormous. They can go out, they will go out into the multiverse and bring information back. So rather than being limited to reaching out 2 or 3 feet, the wanderers' fields can reach out 1,000,000 miles. They can go light years. Okay. So we would have access to information and vibrations and memories, Akashic memories, which is really not what it is. But again, I'm just trying to speak in human language. We would have access to those So when we feel into those fields and we access these ideas and concepts and memories, and then we try to translate them to the human 101 who doesn't have the ability to do that, we really sound like we're crazy. And in their mind, they're absolutely right. Based on their limited purview, they are 100% right. We are, air quotes, crazy. Now, why has this been this way? There's many reasons why. They are infinite, but I'm going to speak about one thing specifically that I downloaded last night that I could very clearly see. It was actually a download that started last night and is still coming through today, which is why I'm speaking. So these human 101s, let's call it 3 feet standard. Say they can reach out 3 feet from their own human avatar and gather information. Why is that limited? Why are the fields that they can access limited? Because they have not needed to do that. They have not needed to venture out into the multiverse field, say. They haven't need to reach 100 miles out or 500 miles out in order to get information. They haven't needed to do that because it's not required for their survival. And these human 101s operate mostly the lower 3 chakras, survive, sex, shelter, money, food, basic survival. Okay, those lower 3 chakras, in order for them to operate well and keep the avatar alive, they don't need to go out and pull out information and memories from the Akash. They don't need to do that in order to survive. And the only thing that avatar is concerned with is survival. Not expansion, not growth, simple survival. So now, why is it that some of the wanderers, why is it that we developed the ability to reach out into the galactics, into the cosmos, and pull information and reach information and bring it back into our avatar for processing? Why is it that we're able to do that? Well, aside from all the other things that I know some of you are thinking as far as genetics and races and all that stuff. Aside from that, I'm just going to go back to a little more basic idea that at some point we did require this information in order to survive. At some point in all of our incarnations along the way, which are usually many, again, they are not sequential, they are all happening simultaneously. So at some point during our incarnations, we needed to access the unseen in order to survive. So we needed to go out, and we were limited in our incarnations. We were likely limited, and this could be a million different scenarios, but we were surviving utilizing the lower 3 chakras, and we were okay. But then something happened where it was necessary for us to expand our reach and pull information that we were not being given or that we did not have physical access to. And this was in order for us to survive. Not just our individual selves, but our entire race. So we became so-called real boys. Okay, so you're thinking of like Pinocchio, right? Pinocchio was he was just made out of wood, and he wasn't a real boy, but he became a real boy through a desire to be a real boy, and through support and from something external, love from something external. He became a real boy. We likely were just like Pinocchio, all of us, at one point. And then something happened that forced us to evolve, that forced us to break the chains, to break all of the boundaries that were blocking our morphic fields from reaching out into the cosmos. We made a drastic change, took a drastic step to open up, like cracking the outside of a nut. We cracked or like cracking the membrane of a cell wall. We cracked the cell wall so we could go out and have full access to the full Akashic records. And this must have been required in order for us to not only survive but thrive. Now, I suspect that the reasons that we our little Pinocchio selves did that at some point in the so-called past, which is again happening simultaneously, is because we were under some sort of a threat and we needed to know the truth so that we could protect and defend ourselves. It was survival. It was just survival on a much grander basis. That takes me back to when a Human 101 has a conversation with a wanderer, and a wanderer tries to explain to Human 101 what's really happening with humanity right now. That this is a spiritual war. These are bioweapons. We are under attack. Humanity itself is at risk right now, and there's an onslaught of attacks against us right now. They cannot see those things, and the reason they can't is because A, they cannot reach out into the fields where we get our information, and B, what they have learned in life, the information that they have in their wheelhouse right now is very limited to what they learned from their parents, what they learned from school, from church, from the news, and from their local societal circles. This is the only place they can get information. They can only get information from 3D sources. So we're pulling information from much higher dimensional, say, places, even though that's also not a real thing. But for the sake of a human conversation, that's what I'm going to call it. We pull information from expanded higher dimensional fields where it's basic, simple data. It's almost like a calculator versus a quantum computer. Actually, that's exactly what it is. We're trying to force a calculator to perform quantum computing functions. It can't. It's not connected to the servers that have that information. The calculator can't go out and pull that information. It's not connected to it. It's not connected to a cloud where the information exists. So it absolutely cannot do it. And that is not an insult necessarily to the calculator or to the Human 101. It just is what it is. They can only run the operations that they have previously installed because they haven't installed updates or patches or upgrades. So they're right. If the calculator tried to run a quantum computation, it would just freak out and freeze out and all this crazy shit would come across the screen, and it would look at you like, what the fuck? What? I can't do this. You know, it would shut down, and the idea would be that you're completely crazy, that you're trying to get this calculator to give you some calculation that it can't possibly do. And it would be right. So the Human 101, from its perspective, is 100% right. It is. It is. It can't possibly understand what you're saying. I don't mean it like I don't appreciate them as divine sovereign humans. I do. But I also understand that we are not all the same. And we need to stop saying we're all the same. Unfortunately, humans don't have the ability to recognize a different type of an entity and still respect it. Humans have this warped, fucked up thing where we think if it isn't like us, we don't have to like it or respect it or appreciate it or love it. And this is absolutely insane because you love animals. Animals aren't like you. You love animals, but when you see another so-called human that isn't like you start acting like a freaking idiot, like you think it's a threat, like you're afraid of it. This is a bad program we are running. This is a virus that we're running. I think it would be beneficial to everyone for us to realize, no, we are not all the same, and that is okay. One is not better than the other. They just are what they are. But if we could begin to realize the difference between how a wanderer operates and how a Human 101 operates, we could then customize our interactions. We could customize our expectations. And then we would be less disappointed. Like, If you try, again, I know I keep saying it, if you were to try to run a quantum computation on a calculator, if you knew that all you were working with was a calculator, you wouldn't get mad at it because it can't run the computation. You would say, I'm dealing with a calculator and this calculator can't possibly do that. So I'm only going to use the calculator for the simple equations that I know that it can do, for the simple computations that I know that it can do. And I'm not going to get mad at it or expect it to do something that it doesn't have the ability of doing. It can't do it. The Human 101 can only reach logical conclusions based on the local information it has received, meaning it's a computer that's not connected to the same server we are connected to. It can only run local operations. That's how Human 101 is. The Wanderer avatar can reach out into the higher servers and pull information and bring it down and run these computations, and it's not limited to basic 3D meat, potatoes information. So I'm going to listen back to this, and I'm probably going to sound like a crazy lunatic, but I'm really hoping that it makes sense to those of you with ears to hear. If I need to say it again in a more simple way, I will really try. I'm going to listen back to it, but let me know what you think about this, if it made sense to you at all, and I would love to hear your input as far as how you perceive it, what could have made it easier to understand, or added ideas or information so that we can expand on this. Love you guys.